Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror psychological films from 2024, titled Presence. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with an unseen entity, also called the Presence, wandering through an empty house. After exploring the place for a while, it settles into a closet in one of the rooms, and spends the night there. In the morning, the Presence exits the closet and looks out the room's window, where a realtor parking her car outside and entering the house. The Presence rushes downstairs, and watches as the realtor welcomes a potential family of buyers. The family includes a married couple, Chris and Rebecca Payne, with their teenage kids, Tyler and Chloe. While exploring the house, Chloe comes across an unusual antique mirror, and the realtor informs her that it is more than a century old. In the meantime, the couple starts talking about the house, and Rebecca is determined to buy it even though it's out of their budget. She claims it is close to Tyler's school, and will allow him to focus on his swimming career. Chris counters that it is a big change for Chloe, who has recently lost someone close to her. But Rebecca seems very dominant, and pushes ahead with the deal without her husband's consent. All the while, the unseen Presence keeps an eye on them. It follows Chloe upstairs into the room, where the Presence usually resides in the closet. The next day, a few workers arrive to paint the house, and we see everything through the perspective of the Presence. Surprisingly, we learn that one of the painters senses something off in the room, and refuses to enter. In the following scene, we see that the house has been fully furnished, and the Payne family has already moved in. The Presence watches them and their activities throughout the day, but does nothing to harm them. It also notices that Rebecca is going through some trouble at work due to a fraud case. One evening, the Presence listens in on a conversation between Rebecca and Tyler, where she expresses how much she loves him more than Chloe. She tries to imply that even though she may have done some bad things, it was all to make him happy. Although Tyler is touched by her words, he also feels a bit weirded out, and walks away from there. Later, the Presence goes to Chloe's room, where she is crying for some reason. She tries to sleep, but senses someone's presence in the room, and is startled. Chloe then approaches the same closet where the entity resides, and suddenly calls out the name Nadia, but doesn't receive any response, so she goes back to her bed. The next morning, while Chloe is in the bathroom, the Presence notices her scattered books and study materials on the bed. It then neatly arranges them, and places them on her desk. Later, Chloe is surprised to find that her things have been moved. Chris hears her scream and asks what's the matter, but Chloe lies and explains that she thought she saw a mouse, which turned out to be a false alarm. Later, Chris chats with Rebecca, and expresses concern about Chloe, who rarely speaks these days, and is frequently heard screaming. It turns out that her friend, Nadia, was found dead, and Chris fears that Chloe might also take such harsh steps. He suggests taking her to a doctor, but Rebecca disagrees. Here, it is clear that she doesn't care about her daughter, and insists that Chloe has always been an anxious kid, which isn't a big deal. The next day, Tyler brings home his friend, Ryan, and introduces him to his sister. Ryan and Chloe greet each other, after which Tyler takes him to his room. The boys begin talking about throwing a party next week, and Chloe listens in from her room with interest, before returning to her bed. We then notice the Presence being protective and closing the bedroom door behind her. That evening, Chris finds Rebecca deleting all her emails, and she claims it's because a virus has gotten into her laptop. She then informs him about Tyler's win in his latest swimming competition. However, Chris shows no excitement, and informs her of a new therapist he has found for Chloe. But Rebecca once again dismisses it, saying it's not needed because time will heal everything. Upset, Chris reminds his wife that she has 2 kids, not just one. Later on, Chris consults his lawyer, and asks whether one spouse's involvement in illegal activities can affect their partner as well. He even inquires about the situation if they are legally separated. Chris claims it's for a friend, but it seems like he is referring to his own situation. The next day, the Presence sees Chloe bring Ryan to the house while no one else is home. They start chatting, and Ryan suddenly reveals that her brother has a dark side, and wants to pull a mean prank on someone named Simone. A surprised Chloe asks if Simone did something wrong to Tyler, but Ryan says he doesn't know. The two then head to her room where they smoke some weed, and Chloe begins talking about her late friend, Nadia. Ryan mentions that he knew her, as they met once at a party. Chloe starts to vent her grief and cry, so Ryan gives her comfort. He also opens up about how toxic his mom is, and how she makes all the decisions for him. One thing leads to another, and they start making out passionately. But this act enrages the presence, which then knocks everything hanging in the closet onto the floor. Upon seeing this, Ryan doesn't think much. But then...
What?
Nothing.
What happened?
Nothing.
When Ryan asks what happened, Chloe lies and says it's just weed. That evening, during dinner, Chloe describes to her family the bizarre things she's been experiencing in the house. The others don't seem to have had similar occurrences, so Chloe suggests it might be Nadia's ghost. However, Tyler gets upset, and accuses her of making up nonsense just because her drug addict best friend passed away. He claims that Ryan is the most popular guy at school, and if he finds out about this, he'll never be his friend. This sparks an argument between the siblings, and Tyler leaves the dinner table, followed by his mom. After some time, Chris talks to Tyler, and advises him not to be harsh on his sister, who has been through a lot. He mentions that apart from Nadia, there was another girl who died, and Chloe used to know her as well. But Tyler doesn't seem empathetic, and responds that she's probably doing the same drugs, and will end up just like those girls. He thinks she is imagining strange things, therefore, she sees them. In response, a disappointed Chris tells his son that he knows there is an amazing man inside him, and wishes to see him soon. The next evening, the family is gathered in the living room, and the presence is also there. Tyler tells everyone how he and his friends played a cruel prank on Simone, leaving her totally embarrassed. Rebecca listens to this with interest, but Chris and Chloe don't support his behavior. Chloe then scrolls through her Instagram, and discovers that Simone's embarrassing picture has been circulated online. She accuses Tyler of posting it, but he tries to explain that it wasn't him. Upon hearing all of this, the presence is enraged, so it quickly rushes up to Tyler's room and shakes the whole place, knocking things around. The family hears the commotion and rushes to Tyler's room, where they are shocked by the bizarre sight. Here, an amused Chloe reveals that it's Nadia causing this. The family then steps outside, and is too scared to go back in. They consider moving out, but Chloe informs them that Nadia's ghost has been communicating with her for quite some time. She claims that the ghost won't hurt anyone and, instead, it seems to need help with something. Upon hearing this, the family reluctantly agrees to head inside, and Chris calls the realtor to report the situation, but the realtor claims that there has never been such an incident in the house. She also reveals that her sister-in-law is a psychic, and can come to inspect the house tomorrow. The next day, the psychic arrives with her husband, and even before entering the door, she is startled by the presence.
This is my wife, Lisa.
Please, come in. Yeah.
Once inside, she looks at the antique mirror, and gets an eerie feeling from it. She confirms that there is indeed a presence in the house, but she isn't sure whether it's Nadia or someone else. The psychic states that the presence is confused about why it's here, and is trying to figure out the reason. She adds that time works differently in the spirit world, so the presence could be from a past or future event. She claims that it has a purpose here, and will only leave once that is fulfilled. Next, the psychic remarks that she loves old mirrors, because they're like old people, who have seen more. But all of a sudden, she feels a strong presence, and becomes visibly pooked. Her husband then informs Chris that when his wife experiences something like this, it takes a physical toll on her, and she can't work for a few days. Chris understands what he means and pays him. After the couple leaves, Tyler gets mad and feels that this psychic woman is only encouraging his sister's delusions. Rebecca is also mad that her husband paid them, and refuses to let the woman ever come back to their home. However, the other two believe what the psychic said is true, and Chris worries that he might have made things worse. Meanwhile, the presence, who has been observing everything, decides not to bother the family, and heads back to the closet. A few days later, the presence who is still in the closet notices Ryan and Chloe being intimate in the room, and it turns away from them. Afterward, Ryan offers Chloe some juice, and heads downstairs to the kitchen, while Chloe enters the bathroom to take a shower. Ryan soon returns, but he suddenly puts something in her juice, which is noticed by the presence. Shortly after, Ryan casually asks Chloe to drink the juice. But
Oh my god!
Fuck was that shit?
Ryan thinks he must have put it too close to the edge and doesn't give it much thought. After cleaning up, Ryan tells Chloe that he loves her, and wants to spend more time with her. In response, she states that her parents are leaving for a work trip this weekend, and invites him to stay the night. But Chloe is worried about her brother, so Ryan says he will deal with him by putting a sleeping pill in his drink. The two then begin making out again, so the presence feels uncomfortable and heads to the closet. The next day, the worried psychic meets Chris outside the house. She claims that she had a dream, and warns Chris that the presence is here for something that hasn't happened yet. She saw a window in her dream that doesn't open, but Chris doesn't take her words seriously. The psychic also briefly stares at the window in Chloe's room, from which the presence is also watching her. The following day, Chris and Rebecca are seen preparing to leave for a work trip. Before departing, Chris tells Chloe to take care of herself, and not bring anyone into the house while they're gone. She says okay, but he doesn't fully trust her, and advises her not to make any wrong decisions. The couple then exits the house, while the presence watches them through the window. Later that night, we see Tyler blasting loud music and drinking alone in the living room. He soon gets a text, and finds out that Ryan has shown up outside. Tyler excitedly lets him in, and offers him a drink as well. But Ryan heads to the kitchen, and decides to mix some juice in their alcohol. While making the drinks, Ryan shouts to Tyler about Simone. He claims that she has gone on a mental leave, and may not be coming back. After adding pills in a glass, he later hands it to Tyler. The naive boy drinks it without hesitation, and soon passes out. Following this, Ryan heads to the kitchen, makes another drink, and mixes it with the sleeping pill. He then goes upstairs to Chloe's room, where she seems to be in a very depressed mood. Surprisingly, she tells him that she doesn't want to continue the relationship, because she is not emotionally stable right now. This upsets Ryan very much, and he asks if he's done something wrong. But Chloe says it's not his fault, and proceeds to comfort him, during which he offers her the drink. This time, she drinks it, and even the presence fails to stop her. As a result, Chloe soon becomes drowsy due to the pill. Ryan starts playing with her hair and continues talking to her, until she falls asleep completely. Next, Ryan starts rambling about how he's in control of Chloe's unconscious body. He lays on top of her and takes out a black device, which opens to reveal a roll of plastic wrap. He talks to Chloe in a psychotic state, and goes into detail on how thin the plastic wrap is. Ryan then places the plastic over Chloe's mouth and nose, and reveals a shocking truth: he was the one who killed Nadia. Not only that, but he is a psycho serial killer, who has murdered several other girls as well. Whenever Chloe is about to suffocate, Ryan removes the plastic to let her breathe briefly, before putting it back again, as he enjoys seeing her suffer. He coldly explains that no one will figure out what caused her death, and people will assume she overdosed on drugs, just like with Nadia. Meanwhile, the presence, who has been observing everything, quickly rushes downstairs. It finds a passed out Tyler, and starts flicking on the lights, and making noises to wake him up. After much effort, Tyler finally wakes, when he realizes that Ryan is up to no good. And so, he does the thing that kills them both. The scene cuts to a few days later, where we see Chloe grabbing the last item from her closet in her now empty room. It turns out the family has decided to move out after all the tragedy that occurred. Chloe urges her mom that they should leave, but a distraught Rebecca asks her to go ahead, saying she wants to stay for one more minute. In the final scene, Rebecca approaches the antique mirror one last time, and is shocked to see Tyler's reflection staring back at her, so the family rushes to her side. It is at this point that we learn that it was Tyler's ghost, who came back in time to save his sister. It is revealed that Tyler was the presence we see in the house all along. He had actually traveled back in time with the sole purpose of preventing his sister's death. The movie comes to an end as the presence leaves the house for the first time after finally fulfilling its purpose. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.